What's up, flockers? It's time for another Flocking Fathers podcast. Hey, everybody. First off, thank you for tuning in. I am very happy to be with you today, and I just wanted to show my appreciation. Anyway, today we're going to start off with a little bit about telling you how everything's been going with me, and then we'll move along to the topic. So, everything's been good. My little baby's getting bigger. Life is good. I've been on paternity leave here for about a month almost now. Got to go back to work next week. Still be doing the podcast, but I'll be working full time as well. I've been enjoying the time with my little one. I've also had my 5-year-old for about 3 weeks of it right now, and boy, is it crazy. I left him with my parents for about 6 weeks, and he came back even bigger than he was before. A little bit more attitude. Going with grandma and grandpa, you pretty much get to do whatever it is you want, or at least that's what I was able to do when I was younger. And from there, he's got to be trained back into the ways of mom and dad, our house. I'm sure all of you have experienced that before. You send them off for a little while, even if it's just a night with their friends, and they come back and things have changed already. And you're like, what is going on? No, you can't do that. No, you can't stay up that late. No, all right? No, stop throwing rocks over to the neighbors. It's not a good look. Anyway, so everything, like I mentioned, everything has been good. Probably planning to take another trip this week and then get back to the grind on top of this grind. But this is actually not a grind. This is something that I enjoy to do, or I enjoy doing, and I'm glad I could share it with you. I also wanted to remind everybody to hit up the Facebook page, Flocking Fathers, and give it a like. Also, I created a Mother Flockers Facebook page for the female element that we have listening. This podcast is for parents. It's for me to go into what my opinions are on certain topics, and whether they're funny, whether they're serious, doesn't matter. I'm just gonna go do a little bit of rant and hope you guys enjoy it. This is, again, it's an opinion-based podcast. I'm not a trained professional in children or family life or anything like that. I'm just going by experiences that I've had, and also some of the experience that are shared with me by my people, by the people that share stuff with me through Facebook, Instagram. I enjoy that, and I enjoy chatting about these situations and learning from people as well. Today, we are going to tackle keeping your friends that were with you prior to your life change of having marriage and children, and how I've handled it. And maybe you guys can jump on Facebook and let me know how you've handled it. Today, nowadays it's kind of hard to manage, I feel like, everything. You got your family, you got your children, and then, you're working probably 40 plus hours a week on top of your hobbies, and you want to still maintain the relationships that you had with your people, or at least I do. My good friends, my best man, people that I've grown up with, for more than a decade of my life. And it's hard to do, especially in my case. My friends are, a lot of, they're younger dudes, I would say, but they're all about my age, but they have not settled down yet. They want to still go out. They still want to have their freedom, still enjoy, living that single life, which is totally fine. I didn't meet my wife until I was 32, met her on Tinder. Came to her house and probably freaked her out the first night that we met. Knew she had a child, who's my son now, Joseph, and we hit it off, pretty well. Though, our first encounter was a little bit strange. Definitely I got a little bit overzealous and wanted to take things to the next level right away because that's all I knew. And she probably was pretty uncomfortable with me wanting to push it that way. I think she just giggled the whole time, and we never, took it to that next level. But it was all that was on my mind. I was meeting people left and right because I was single. I had to kind of preface this. I'd gone through a lot of different relationships, and I was just over them. I was done with the relationship thing. I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to be falling in love. The heartbreak sucks. It was usually my fault. I was a jealous kind of guy that put pressure on women to not want to go out, or I don't want to say I didn't allow them to go out, but anytime they'd go out without me, it was like this big deal. I was always worried about being cheated on, and I don't know, probably stemmed from one of my first girlfriends cheating on me, and maybe, I don't know, maybe other stuff in life, but I would always take it down that path, and I hated it about myself, but I couldn't stop it for some reason. I really tried. So I gave up on this thing probably when I was 29 maybe, and this whole thing of online dating like Tinder and swiping came up, and boy did I take advantage of it. A lot of short-term relationships, a lot of I wouldn't even call them relationships, but you know what I'm talking about. So short-term sexual escapades, I guess we would say, and it was fun while it lasted, I would say, but it definitely wasn't fulfilling. I wasn't wanting another relationship, though. I didn't want to, again, like I mentioned, I didn't want to go through that heartbreak. Why? I was like saying why. I kind of had decided I'm not going to get married. I'm not going to have kids. This is my path. It is what it is. I wanted it so much. I'm total hopeless romantic, but I just thought that was my path. I wasn't going to go that route, and, fuck it. Why did I care? I don't give a fuck. I was doing what I wanted to do. I had freedom. I had good family that backed me up. So if anything serious ever happened, I could rely on them. But I also wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't really ambitious. I don't feel like I didn't, I worked at Fender Musical Instrument Company, and I started in like customer service there, and I ended up moving into like a credit finance position, and it was great, and I worked with some good people. I'm a musician as well, by trade, I guess you would say, and I got a lot of great guitars, a lot of good discounts on things, met a lot of other good musicians. I definitely forged some connections there, but I just wasn't ambitious. I saw all these young people coming in, a lot younger than me, graduating college. They just graduated college, I guess, and they were, higher than me on the spectrum of employment. So anyway, back to it. I met my wife through Tinder, and I ended up falling in love with her. It was crazy. So for the first few months, I didn't want to meet what is now my son, because I didn't feel like it was right. I wasn't sure that this was going to go anywhere. Again, I was very skeptical about this whole relationship stuff. But anyway, after a few months, I met him, fell in love with him, of course. Was worried that maybe I fell in love with him and not my wife, but I definitely forged through with that, and we made it. She's the first person. We actually talked about this earlier tonight, and we were watching 90 Day Fiancé. Don't judge me for that, but we talked about how the fact that love is so weird. I always thought that I was in love with these people that I dated, and said I love you fairly quickly, I guess you would say, like few months in maybe. By the way, I didn't have a relationship that lasted over a year until this current one. But so I went from that, I just feel like on all these relationships, I had this overwhelming passion. I just wanted to be with this person, wanted to have sex with this person, wanted to touch these people all the time. And I came to the realization when I actually fell in love that that's not what it's about. It's really, at least to me, it's about being comfortable not having sex, being comfortable going to sleep at night next to that person, being comfortable with that person going out and knowing that he or she is going to come back home. Not having to worry about that, not having to worry about, is this person going to go home with someone else? And actually be content that if they do that, then you're going to pull yourself away, and it is what it is. You're going to pull yourself away. You might be sad or hurt about it, but then they weren't enough for you, if that makes sense, or they weren't the person that you're supposed to be with, I guess. So moving on, again, like I mentioned, I wasn't planning on being in a relationship, didn't really think about it. And now, I got into this serious relationship. For the first few years, we definitely hung out a lot more with friends and got together. We had a consistent babysitter, so if we needed to, we'd leave Joey with, that person, and we would go out. We would have a good time. We'd tear it down. Basically, the only time we fought, though, was when we drank, so it's probably good that we don't drink very often. But anyway, so we'd tear it down. We'd have a good time. My friends loved her. She loved my friends. We'd hang out with her friends, who a lot of her friends, though, are married with kids and in that same situation. So it was a lot easier for us to transition with them. We didn't always feel like we had to be kind of the party couple or anything like that. So we did that a lot. But as we got further into our relationship, we started breaking off a bit. It was weird, I think, for my friends to see me jumping into the daddy role and actually embracing it, because they always knew me as this kind of outspoken, outgoing guy that was trying to be Mr. Charmer and kind of their wingman. A lot of times I would be the person that would go out, meet the girls, just talk to them, and then they'd come back and to talk with my friends, essentially. So, but anyway, so my friends are still my friends. They're all my friends, gonna consistently be my friends, I hope, for forever. But it's just weird because now that we don't hang out, I feel like our lives don't hang out as much. Our lives continually separate, and they just kind of get further and further, and I don't necessarily know what's going on in their life. They don't know what's going on in my life, and we just don't connect on our lives that way anymore. I always pray that they'll settle down, and I know they want to at some point, but that they'll settle down, settle in with someone, or with maybe have children, and we can, all connect and do that again. Because I find myself hanging out with my wife's friends a lot more, which I enjoy all of them. But I find myself hanging out with them more and forging stronger bonds with them because of the connection that we have through the family and the children. So I think it's really important, though, to keep those relationships with your friends. Some people, I had a comment on my post, because I posted this. I do a flocking opinion on my Facebook and sometimes my Instagram weekly, maybe a couple times a week. And it just kind of brings up these points that I'm probably going to bring up on the podcast as well. But it lets people engage that are already liking the page on Facebook. And it gives me ideas as to what people, think about the situations or the scenarios that I present. So I had a friend saying that his wife is his whole world. Essentially, he doesn't need to go out. It's never really thought about that because, he just wants to go out with her and the friends that they've created together. I'm sure that he probably had a lot of friends prior to, marrying his wife. Maybe not. But to me, I don't necessarily agree fully with that, because I feel like you do need your space. You do need to have your time with your boys. Your wife needs to have her time with her girls. And you need that time away from each other because you're with each other all the time. Stuff can kind of get stale. You definitely don't want that in a relationship. I feel that when you have that separation, even for a little while, if your wife or husband goes on a weekend with the girls or a weekend with the boys, they can come back and really appreciate you a lot more. And it gives you guys some time to cool out. Sometimes stuff brews so hot that it'll spill over. You might have the best communication in the world. You might have, the greatest relationship in the world, and no matter what, you're going to end up boiling over at some point. You're not going to agree on something, and you're going to boil over. So that being said, I do, want my friends to consistently be in my life. We like to golf. We definitely go out golfing. But obviously during this COVID situation, it's a lot harder to get together with everybody. I'm not a big entertainer. I don't like having people over at my house. I don't feel like we have the best house for entertaining. So I don't really like doing it. I usually go over to other people's houses and enjoy, some UFC fights and a few beers, things like that. But so that could be a problem too. I also, with my friends, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the Phoenix area, but and if you are, awesome. But in Phoenix, you have, it's a very spread out city. And when I first moved here, I lived in the East Valley, and I pretty much lived in the East Valley, which are Tempe, Chandler, Gilbert, Mesa, Scottsdale. Those are kind of the main East Valley areas. So, excuse me. So when I that's all I had never known. And when I met my wife, she lived in North Phoenix. So it's pretty much about a 30-minute, 40-minute drive from where all my friends live. So that's another thing that's kind of tough, is that distance. It's like, also in my area, there's not a lot to do. It's definitely like a more settled down area, settled down community. And my friends live in where the party area is, where the action is, where you can find, a good bar, good club, good restaurant, all in that one area. Phoenix is expanding so much, though. Who knows? This area might end up turning into a haven for partying as well. But not during COVID. Anyway, so again, the distance might make it that way. It might be that they're not entertainers, and it might just be that they've kind of, get bored coming over here, sitting with my family, watching some TV, watch me with my drooling baby, and, my son yelling in their ear going, "Uncle, uncle, uncle." That's what you do when you have close friends. They're always uncle or aunt, So, again, I definitely feel like it's important to keep those relationships, because God forbid anything were to happen with my significant other and I would need people to lean on, I would hope that they would be there. So pushing them away, and I told myself after a lot of my other relationships that I would never push my friends to the back burner again. And I made it very clear to my wife that until we're married, they're just as important as, my relationship is. I needed to create time for them. I needed to make sure that they knew like how much I cared and loved them in a sense, and knew that they knew that I would always consistently have their back. Another thing that's changed is I, can't drink or party as heavily. I do have like a health condition that I can't do that, and I also get so hungover now, it's fucking ridiculous. I will, I don't puke or anything like that. I just get headaches and I get dizzy. People will call it the Sunday scaries. Get bad anxiety. It's not fun. So I don't drink as much anymore. Funny enough, right now I'm having a glass of Buffalo Trace whiskey. So I sip more now. I'm also a pretty shitty drunk sometimes. I can get kind of aggressive, get loud, say things that are true but probably shouldn't be meant to be said out loud. And yeah, any of the times I've ever gotten in trouble, it's usually alcohol driven. Though I wouldn't take back any of the earlier years I've had. I really enjoyed, again, times with my friends. I enjoyed being out, partying, meeting new people, the game, so you would say. And yeah, for now, I'm also really enjoying the being settled into family life, though. Being settled and not being hungover, every Saturday or Sunday, and realizing that you have to go to work the next day, or just vegging out and wasting your days. But those times that you miss also creep up a little bit from time to time. And not saying I would ever want to do that again, but I do miss the, forging more bonds with the people that I love, like my friends. I'm sure, hopefully, they miss me too. And I know that they respect me enough to not be always asking me to go out or always asking me to do things because they respect my relationship, or at least that's what I like to believe. Hopefully it's not the case where they are, not contacting me because they don't enjoy the family life, or they just think I'll say no to hanging out, because I do really try. I mean, again, it's harder with 2 children, and trying to budget everything, I think, is another thing. Like, you got to make sure that you have money to go out. So trying to budget everything and make things happen is a big deal. I would like your guys' input on this. I've posted something on Facebook. So if you can, again, Flocking Fathers page on Facebook, you should be able to hit it up and, and leave a comment on any of the posts. Maybe we could return to them. What I'm trying to do as far as the format goes is take some of these comments from Flocking Opinion, apply them to the beginning, or even from the previous podcast, talk about them a little bit in the beginning and of the podcast, and then go into the next subjects that we deal with. So hopefully we can grow to that point. I didn't get a lot of comments on the prior podcast, so therefore I didn't use that format this time. But hopefully in the future, again, we can push through that. Well, on a final note with this, me personally, in my opinion, is strong about keeping your friendships forged and those bonds there. Unless one of your friends tells you, I don't want to be friends with you any longer because you have children, or because you're married now, or because you're acting different, it's weird, I'm just uncomfortable with it because you're not the same person that you used to be, then I feel like you still should try and be consistent with hanging out. It doesn't have to be every weekend, obviously. It doesn't maybe even have to be every few weeks, but maybe once a month. Make some time for your friends. Make some time, to tie one down, so to speak, if that's what you do, to golf, to play some basketball, to even just catch a bite, catch a flick. I think I think it's really important, and I do feel that it will make your life better. Like I mentioned earlier, God forbid your spouse or significant other will ever, not be with you, or something were to happen to them. You're going to need those people to, lean on and to count on. So that's my take on it. I hope all of you have a, great next few days. I'll try to throw another podcast up on Thursday of this week, and we'll go from there. You guys take care. Thanks for listening to the Flocking Fathers podcast. Remember, if you flock with me, I'll flock with you. And this is Gregorio signing out. Have a good one, flockers.